Moving on next is to another exciting panel session. This is panel session 3. And it is titled Diversity and Inclusivity in Transformative Leadership. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this session, Ms. Rani Vimal. Now, read a brief bio highlighting her impressive background. Ms. Rani Vimal is a law lecturer to an edutech trailblazer, has been marked by innovation and a dedication to impactful education. In 2003, she launched the SMS ME English program, transforming a Nokia phone into a learning tool. This initiative not only helped Chinese students master English, but also became the world's first mobile learning certification. Starting from a dining table, her mission has grown globally. She creates digital learning platforms recognized by organizations like the United Nations, OECD, and ITU's Partner to Connect program. These platforms empower individuals across Malaysia, Indonesia, Nepal, the Philippines, Uganda, and beyond, aligning with 7 of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Her platforms support initiatives for women, youth, people with special needs, and refugees. Her recognitions include Asia's Inspirational Female Business Leader and Amazon Web's Women Founder. As Director of E-Learning for Kiwani's Malaysia Academy, she champions education, especially for children with special needs. She was also featured in the APAC report for the APAC Convention in Peru 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a big round of applause, Ms. Rani Vimal. And I'm pleased to invite the panelists to the stage, starting off with Dr. Jerome Bonifay from France. Let's give him a big round of applause. Dr. Jerome. Her Excellency, Mrs. Ngozi Oyewole from Nigeria. Associate Professor, T.S. Dr. Zuhanis Mansor from Malaysia. Dr. Malai Zeti binti Sheikh Abdul Hamid from Brunei. And Dr. Lahan Cortez from the Philippines. And I hand over the speech to Ms. Rani Vimal.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me? Yes? Okay. So, good afternoon to everybody. And what we are going to do today, I think, is quite an important discussion, because today we stand at a pivotal moment in history where the call for inclusive leadership is so loud than ever before, yeah? As we navigate complex global challenges like social inequalities and environmental crisis. And if they have leaders, especially diverse perspective, this is very, very beneficial for innovation and sustainable progress. So leaders who embrace diversity, they allow and empower their people to actually be heard, right? And also drive collaboration and foster creativity. And this will allow everybody to thrive in an organization, equal opportunities, right? So I'm honored to introduce a remarkable group of panelists here who are not just leaders in their field, but passionate advocates for change. Each of them bring unique insights and experiences that will inspire us to think critically about how we can champion inclusivity in our own spheres, right? So let me start with So we have with us Dr. Jerome Bonifay from France. He's a global Her Excellency, Mrs. Ngozi Oyewole from Obi.
I like my surname pronounced very well. Oyewole.
Mrs. Her Excellency, Mrs. Ngozi Oyewole from Nigeria, an accomplished entrepreneur and advocate for women's inclusion. With over 20 years of experience in business, she champions professionalism and quality while empowering women and youth across various sectors. Joining us from Malaysia is Associate Professor Dr. Zuhanis Mansor. She's the Director for the Center of Women Advancement and Leadership at the University of Kuala Lumpur. She's dedicated to advancing women leadership and addressing barriers to inclusion in both education and workplace. We also have with us Dr. Malai Zeti, who's the Deputy Dean for the Center of Communication for Teaching and Learning. Her insights into effective communication strategies are vital for nurturing the future leaders. She's a Fulbright Scholar and Postdoctoral Fellow at the Harvard Graduate School. She's a strong advocate for literacy, and she's the President for the Brunei Reading and Literacy Association. Finally, but not least, we welcome Dr. Luhan Tamster Cortez. She's from the Philippines, a former board member of the Tourism Infrastructure Board Foundation. Her extensive experience in sustainable tourism and development emphasizes the importance of leadership in fostering inclusive and environmentally responsible practices. Can we have a hand for all our panelists? So without further ado, let's dive into an enriching conversation and explore how we all can become catalysts, right? So my question for Mrs. Ngozi Oyewole, right? As a successful entrepreneur and advocate for women's inclusion, how do you believe transformative leadership can bridge the gap in diversity within traditionally male-dominated industries like energy and gas?
Thank you, Rani. Like I said, you're so beautiful. Thank you very much. Now, when you talk about diversity in transformative leadership, that is what must happen. And then you move on to knowing that the culture of the company must change. And then why would it change? When you involve women into the culture of that organization, they bring in what? They bring in innovation, but not only innovation, they bring in, they make you know that that company is actually committed to equality, okay, equal rights. Or when we talk about equal rights, I like to correct all of us. It's not about power. No, it's bringing to the table competence. Now, in the oil and gas industry, which is really, and indeed, you're right, very male-dominated. And I have been in that space, indeed, for over 20-something, 25, 30 years. One of my basic work I do in that space is dressing them up, like I say, supply of personal protective equipment. It wasn't an easy glide into that space. It had to do with a lot of what has been said today. We talked about stereotype, we talked about biases. A lot has been said today, so I'm sure whatever I'm going to say now, it's not new. In that space, if you're going to come to the table of any decision making as a woman, just know that your thinking cap is tight on your head. And I'm very proud that all the women who have spoken today have been so proud of them. They've made us really proud. So one of the basic things I did in that space, they tried to suffocate me. Well, luckily for me, I've got the body to hold the heat. So it wasn't very easy to put me in the pocket. And each time, especially when you've been on various boards, I'm so well versed in board politics. And so when you're working there and you speak with a tiny voice here, you do yours. Now, listen to my Nigerian accent, and I hope you're all awake. There's something I do, I've not said it here in Malaysia, and that is when I say women, you all scream, yes we can. So, I'm sorry, that tradition, I'm not going to leave Malaysia without saying it. So get ready, when I say women, you shout, yes we can. Women, oh! Yes we can! We're sleeping, where's our strength? We saw all those men lined up here. Come on then, women, oh! Yes we can! Yes, so with that, I put my head up, I put my thoughts, my thinking cap on my head, I walked in there, I looked for role models. That's how I survived. I asked myself, what did the people who were there before me, what did they do? Then I looked for mentors. Then I joined mentorship programs. Those were the two basic things that propelled me and gave me the foundation to survive in that terrain that we don't call it male-dominated, we call it people who are ignorantly dominated space. Because in transformative leadership, diversity includes men and women, and making sure that women are on the decision table and doing what? Advocating for the right policies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next, we have Associate Professor Dr. Zuhanis Mansor, the Director for Women Advancement. What do you believe are the most significant barriers to women leadership in Malaysia and beyond? How can educational institutions and organizations work together to dismantle these barriers and foster a more inclusive environment for future leaders?
Okay, thank you, Rani. Okay, good day, everyone. Let me read the statistic here. Okay, women in Malaysia actually enhance in terms of education attainment, but in terms of income equality, 66 ringgit for every 100 that men earn. So women only earn 66.67 ringgit, Malaysia. So in this case, you can see that in terms of education, we have a lot of, in terms of enhancement and opportunity, we have like empowerment in terms of women. But in terms of, because nowadays in university, like Center for Women in UniKL, we are empowering in terms of advancement and leadership. So I can see that a lot of women students, they are already empowered. And actually we take up the WO, we have to empower the men through the women, okay? Because I can see that nowadays they have AI technologies, everyone is talking about AI, but we are lacking in terms of EI. Yes. So meaning that the skills, soft skill is very important in terms of to empower the women, in terms of women empowerment. So for my, during my, because my background is engineering, so the engineering students compared to the business students, engineering they like in terms of soft skill, I can say that, because because the soft skill is not that 100% taught in university. We have to get the industry, the government, and also the companies out there to work with university to enhance the in terms of empowerment to the women students. So for me, things that barrier is actually that we can control and that the one that we can't control. So you can't control like policy, like maybe culture, but the thing that what we can control is something like work-life balance, Alright, because nowadays we have WhatsApp everywhere, outside office hour, and then the students, the lecturer, the workers, okay? So in terms of that, the work-life balance is actually much more bigger to understand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's have a hand for Prof. Dr. Zuhanis. So now we have a gentleman with us. See, we are very equal practice, right?
It's a mess with you.
That doesn't matter. We are starting. So Dr. Jerome Benefit, as a recognized global authority on emotional intelligence, how do you see the role of emotional intelligence evolving in leadership, particularly in the context of diverse and inclusive workplace? And if you could give us some examples of how leaders can cultivate emotional intelligence to enhance team dynamics and drive organizational success.
Thank you, Rani. Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, the time is not going to be... I need
the best that you can.
I need 6 weeks to answer this. Okay, this is a very big question, and I'm very happy, extremely happy that I'm not the first one to talk about emotional intelligence. Because during the whole day, I've heard concepts, I've heard ideas about emotional intelligence. Everybody is aware that this is a critical skill. As you were saying, Prof, we can have a lot of skilled students, skilled workers. What is drastically missing is the invisible skills. And the invisible skills are driven by experience, by lack of inclusivity, most of the time, by unconscious bias that go from leaders to the people they lead. And so this is really an area that needs to be addressed. And I'm really happy that you brought that up, because we, at education level, we need to make an effort to expose students, kids, and later on older students to certain levels of invisible skills, to emotional intelligence for young adults, for example. Because this is absolutely essential. Those kids come out of their educational system with a paradigm, with a framework that has been instilled to them by people who don't have a lot of emotional intelligence. So we're going to go from skills to skills to skills. And they don't have the human skills. They don't have, I mean, I took a whole load of notes of words that you all said during those few hours. I heard flexibility, I heard assumption, I heard unconscious bias. And as much as we want to fight it, we are all full of unconscious bias. Whatever we do, we are binded by them, unless we decide to go into that one journey of self-awareness. And self-awareness is it's probably the biggest aspect of emotional intelligence. And I want to say that, and I heard it, I think our previous speaker mentioned that we're all talking about leadership. I want to talk about self-leadership, because that's where it starts. We all have missions as leaders to drive people into a certain direction, to influence them, or even to manipulate them, to go do what we want them to do, but giving them the impression they actually chose to do it. How about we turn around a bit and go into influencing ourselves? Because that's what it's going to start. And we can talk about a lot of things. We can talk about all those words we've said. It starts by us. As long as I don't want to influence myself, there's no way I'm going to influence inclusivity. There's no way I'm going to influence diversity. So it really starts there. And I want to say that emotional intelligence, and really, Randy, you got to stop me. Emotional intelligence, you know, we make a lot of efforts to go on diets, to go exercise, to go to the gym, to eat whatever we want. Does anybody do emotional intelligence workout? Because that's where it starts. That's where it starts. Do you ever ask yourself, did I make somebody smile today? Because that's where it starts. We need to implement gratitude. We need to implement recognition. Do you know the names of the guards on your streets? Do you greet them? Do you smile? Do you open your window to greet them? Because that's what it is. At the end of the day, don't take me wrong. We want to have everybody inclusive. At the end of the day, I get a better service because I do that. One hand washes the other. So let's be very clear about it. But we do it in a nice way. We do it in a way where people feel they are encouraged, they are motivated to work with us. And that's really levels of emotional intelligence that we can implement the minute we get out of the room. Merci.
Stop you. Thank you so much. And thank you again to the audience. Okay, next we have with us Dr. Malai, who's a role model and who's playing a role at the Center of Communications, Teaching and Learning. And how do you see the intersection of communication and leadership evolving in today's rapidly changing world? What strategies as educators can you implement to nurture effective communication skills in future leaders with promoting diversity and inclusivity?
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. They're very interesting questions. So I think the first thing we have to think about is that, what do you mean by communication? I think we start with that. You know, communication is very crucial as a leader, because when you are very communicative, it shows that you're assertive, you're confident, and people listen to you. I think that you start from there. And then sometimes it's the way that we communicate our messages to other people, to make others listen to you. So to be very assertive and to be sure that what you're communicating is not seen as the wrong way. So that's the first thing. Now, I also quite agree with what earlier on said by Ms. Helga from Hungary, when she mentioned that people matter. You know, just like my colleague here, Dr. Jerome, we sometimes forget to say hi to our neighbor, our person, like I said, someone that we see every day. You don't ask how their lives are, because you don't want to communicate, you don't want to know what happens in their life. And I think that's very, very important. The skills of communication is very important. So today's world, we are actually competing with technology. Now, I think that's the biggest factor that all of us face. If those of you who have young children, you understand that our biggest competitor are not people, but other things. The mobile phone is our biggest competition, even for ourselves, you know? So we have to cope with strategies that we need to cope with technological advancement. I think that's the one thing that we sometimes forget to do. So as an educator, we need to nurture certain skills, and I like the idea of soft skills. I like that very much, because sometimes we forget the soft skills that we need. So adaptability is also very important, and most of all, to be receptive to others. Not to be biased to other people, but more importantly, think about yourself. Being a good leader means being very transparent with others. At the same time, you respect yourself first. When you respect yourself, you have confidence, you have self-esteem, and you know yourself better. And I think in terms of inclusivity, you need to be inclusive to give everybody equal chance. That's very important. Everybody needs to give a chance to have their say. And women these days, I think, there used to be a very high glass ceiling in the past. Women are not being given opportunities to do what we do, but now women are pilots, women are engineers, women are venturing into things that men could only do. But now we women are strong. We are now doing things that, well, most men can do. And remember, there are some things men can do that women can do that men cannot do. You know, I'm talking about childbirth. Now, that's very difficult for men, okay? I'm sure you all agree, those who are mothers, you know? So, if you talk about inclusivity, every woman has a chance to be a good leader. But not every woman has a chance to be, for example, both. Sometimes you have to pick one or the other. You're either a career woman, or you are looking after children at home. But nowadays, women are being given the chance, opportunity to be a good leader. You can be a good leader at home. You can also be a good leader in the office or at work. So I think that is very important, to give the chance for diverse and then diversity, very, very important. I think that's also a very important skill. To go back to the questions, What kind of skills are important as strategies? First of all, to me, we as a person, men or women, need to be very open-minded. Sometimes we forget we are very narrow-minded. I think that's what we all go through, being narrow-minded. You're not open to change. You're not opening yourself to others. So people judge you. The first time you say hello, they're judging you already. The moment they look at you, the way you dress, you're being judged. You need to change that about you. So perception is important, and people, they read you. They read your face. They read your body language. So as communication, we teach the skills to our students. So you need to be able to read your body, your face, your facial expression, your movement, because that is how people judge you. Even your tone of voice. When you speak in a low tone, oh, this person is soft. When you speak hard, up there, oh, this person is assertive. So I think that's important to remember. So, okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next we have Dr. Tamster Cortez, with your extensive experience in tourism, infrastructure and advisory roles. How do you believe transformative leadership can impact sustainable tourism development in the Philippines? And what key initiatives do you think are necessary to ensure that tourism benefits local communities while promoting inclusivity and environmental stewardship? Because the same practices can be taken back to other countries as well. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to greet each one of you, Mabuhay. Mabuhay is a Filipino brand of excellence gesture. We put our hand here, near our heart, and then we bow slightly. That is how we greet our tourists whenever they arrive in the Philippines. It was formulated after the pandemic. Why did we do it? Because Mabuhay gesture has 7 core values, and we try to emphasize on those core values. The Department of Tourism have amplified the power of the 7M, or the 7 core values, and one of those is to become the steward of the environment. As a woman, I think as a transformational leader, it is not an individual's responsibility, but rather, it is a collective effort. It is a collective effort participated by the government, local sectors, communities, and organizations. You cannot amplify your voice without the support of these groups. So I believe that in order for us to be transformational leader, we should create an impact on a global standard. The SDG was given to us. It should create changes on all nations, particularly in the Philippines. Just to enlighten you about my humble country. My country is the Asia's top island destination in 2023. And also, we are the most hospitable country in the world. So I invite all of you to come to my country and feel the hospitality of Filipinos. Well, thank you so much. Being part of the tourism industry, which is the largest industry and the income-generating industry in the Philippines, I am very proud to say that the key initiatives that we make during the post-pandemic is to upskill, reskill, and build the capacities of the minorities and those groups that are belonging to the poverty line. Well, especially those women. Recently, we have non-formal education conducted at Bulacan, wherein we teach the housewives, the ordinary housewives, how to bake, how to cook, and how to perform digitalization in a manner that they are selling their products using this e-commerce. In this small way, we were able to educate these Filipino women regardless of their age, regardless of their backgrounds, social backgrounds, and of course, whether they are just housewife or working, it doesn't matter, as long as they want to learn and they want to reskill and, of course, upskill. Another one is, of course, in order to bring the local community into the leadership pipeline, we have to set this trajectory and make it clear that the local community will benefit on this environmental stewardship. Like what we've done in Calatagan, Batangas. Calatagan, Batangas is full of local minorities. We provided training for them in order for them to become tour guides, not only because we want them to steward our natural resources, but we want them to have a financial opportunity. You know, you can motivate people if they think that it is beneficial for them. And in a country like us, in a third world country like us, financial opportunity is a big motivation for them. So I believe that transformational leader could create an impact in a global stage if you're able to allow everyone to participate in your own advocacy. And that is the advocacy I am bringing right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's give a hand to all our panelists. I think they did great sharing. Did y'all enjoy it? Oh my, y'all didn't pay attention. I caught y'all. Did y'all enjoy it? Yes. Is that true? Yes. Okay. So I think the one thing that we can take away from this is actually we have to practice self-awareness. At the moment, we don't practice self-awareness. And self-awareness is the key for emotional intelligence. If you look at 3 simple examples, right, like age, like when someone goes for an interview, and if there's a young graduate and somebody who's more experienced, without doubt, the person who's interviewing will say that the other person has better prospects to join the company, not knowing that the young person may also perform equally better. Do you agree? So these are all subconscious biases that is grown in us. We are not aware, but when the thing happens, we are actually being judgmental. So we must be not narrow-minded. We have to be open-minded, right? And in another situation is like race, like when you work in an organization and you always tend to favor your own race more than another race. You always think that your race performs better and somebody else, although they have talent and they work hard, they are not actually acknowledged because they're not your kind. Do you agree? Yeah, and finally, one more example is gender. Like in a meeting, normally between male and females, like when the males are talking, nobody will interrupt. But when a female has something to say, they tend to like interrupt and say something else, and they overtake the meeting. So we have to like keep quiet and listen. So I think from today, if all of us practice self-awareness and we are aware of all this subconscious biasness, we will actually make the world a better place. Shall we do that? Thank you.
Thank you. And right, I'm sure the floor has a lot of questions. Am I right? Yes? No? Very quiet, very silent. Is there any questions? As I'm going to open the floor for the question and answer session. Yes? Right. So you all know what to do. You need to scan the QR code and you may place your questions there and we will receive it.
Yes, so we have one hand up and one question on the board. So shall we take this question first? Okay. How do you manage Gen Z who complains all the time? Okay. Yes, any one of you can take the question.
Okay. Now, we have to understand that the Gen Z, the future is actually now. And sometimes I would because I deal with youth, I'd like to speak from that perspective. And what it is parents tend not to listen to their children. When we start paying a little more attention to what they're saying, we'll be able to understand where their mindset is. So let's say you have a Gen Z in your company who is, in quotes, youth, please pardon me, is spoilt or brat. And he comes in with his trousers sagging, no belt, the belt hole has no belt, and his shirt is half in, half out, and he's everything that you are complaining about, but he's got a catalog of complaints for you, and one of it is, the first thing here is, you're stressing me, my mental health, you're shouting, you're not listening, you bang the door too hard. The complaint is a lot, but you know the truth. You have that, you can actually train yourself to do more listening, because sometimes beyond that complaint, there's something right behind him that he's not or she's not able to say, but is expressing it in their actions. So do not take it as the Gen Z is complaining all the time. Sometimes as leaders or as heads of organizations, you have to look inwards. Ask yourself, why? What is his environment? Is he operating in a comfortable environment? Even his chair that he sits on, is he comfortable? Sometimes we do not know. You know that the light in the offices can actually run you mad. So are you working with the light, the bright, a warm light, or is it harsh? Those are things we need to look at. Then we look at how we speak to them. Because somebody is younger does not mean he or she does not deserve respect. She talked about raising your voice and talking softly. There are two things. Oh, please, would you like to come here? I say come here. Same thing. So those are things we need to listen to. Do more listening, pay more attention, try and act, try and put yourself in their shoes. Very smelly sometimes, they don't wash their trainers. But we need to be very attentive. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
If you don't mind, I'd like to add a few points, and that were, I thought you knew my son. You described everything. So, just a couple of pointers. We have to remember that we are looking situations from different perspectives. We're looking from our generational perspective, and they're looking at it from theirs. And here's the thing, reality check. In a few years, you guys you won't be here anymore. So they're still going to be here. They might not have the right way, according to what we feel, but they will be here. We won't be here anymore. So that's one thing. The second thing is, younger generation, and I say younger for lack of a better word, they do not want to be talked to like we expect to be talked to. They want to be talked to like they talk to each other. The only way you're going to reach them is to change your language. Change your language into their own language. And I'm saying language, I'm talking emotional language, I'm talking all of that. Don't be who you are. With generation, to bridge the gaps, you need to become who they are. You are not going to bring them to you. And mind you, we all have them at home. It doesn't work. Be them.
Thank you.
I would like to add on that as part of the Generation X, in between the baby boomers and the Generation Y and Gen Z. All right, so I've been managing multi-generations, and one thing that I have learned is to give them the reverse mentorship. They can have mutual learning if you pair in a project. I used to pair these Generation Z and this Generation X so that can mutually benefit with each other. One is talking about the digitalization and the other one is talking about the pure knowledge and the structures. You see, they can really learn from each other. Number two is, of course, you have to tailor-make your approach. There's a different approach now. Even the work style of the Gen Z is so different that we can be bewildered how they were able to finish it using the AI, using these platforms easily without any sweat and blood, you know, just like the times that we had in the baby boomers and Generation X. But we have no place to complain either, because we always have to move forward because they are the future generation. Thank you.
Yes.
I hope that answers the question. You have another? Yes.
Yeah. Are we moving on to the next question? Can we move on, or are we still taking it?
We have to take the lady who's put up her hand just now. Does she have a mic?
Hi, I'm Abbas from Tenaga Nasional Berhad. So if some of you are wondering, Tenaga Nasional Berhad is actually an energy company, serves for Peninsula Malaysia and Labuan. So how do we bridge the gap in an organization that often only have discussions among senior managers only when they are only discussing stuffs that will largely involve the working levels? How do we reach that?
That's your question.
Yes.
So they don't involve other people, but it's only decided by the senior management.
Yes. Of course, the main structure has been decided by the top level management beforehand.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me try and see if I can answer you. And just always understand that no answer is wrong or answers are right. Depends on what perspective you're looking at. Now, when you have that sort of situation, what I would always advise, or I always advocate for, is setting up a mentorship program. That mentorship program is what brings the top down from their seats. So, in that organization, what I would advocate for is to say, there should be a big sister or big brother mentoring program from the top to down. So when you have a mentor who is up there, whether he or she likes to know it, she will hear you and she will listen, or he would listen. So that mentorship thing is the gap, what bridges the gap. Again, sometimes on the lower cadre, they may think that up there, everything is so hunky-dory. Now remember that leadership is very lonely. At the top, you're all alone, and the fear of making the wrong decision and dropping. Because if you are that top and you make the wrong decision, it just starts from top and it will crystallize down to the last, So it's very important that you change your mindset. As I'm not being personal, I'm trying to create that human being that is lower down and thinks that up there is wonderful. But I'd like to say it that when you're lower the ground, you have no fear of falling down. You're lower the ground. You know, when you're up there, there's a consistent situation where you have to keep growing, self-developing, learning, trying to make sure that you're holding the organization together. So, in one word, look up to the people at the top, but always be brave and be in an organization that has a culture where you can speak to anybody, not being rude, but very politely. If that is not happening, then there's something wrong with the culture of that organization. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Since we are running out of time, we are going to to answer one question from the app, and the rest of you have questions here, posted here. Please look for the panelists later on after the session. All right? All right. So we are moving on to the next question. How to transform those staff who request absenteeism from duty frequently?
I think
That's
I can
hard.
try to answer this question. I think if you think about it, we have to lead by example. Because normally our staff, I think in my opinion, staff follow the top. If you're frequently absent, not in the office, not within the view, this is where staff start to do things funny, you know. So one, you have to lead by example. Two, being in communication, I think it's best to communicate this with them. Because staff do not know they're being watched, they don't realize that they're doing it perhaps, or for whatever reason it may be. So I think the best answer is communication. You need to talk to your staff. If you're a principal, if you're a director, people below you will look at you, but when you start to take notice of the things that they do, then they don't realize they're being watched. So absenteeism, for example, in our department happens because staff don't realize that, oh, nobody cares, I'm not around. But if you take time, for example, to check in with them once in a while, not regularly, but once in a while, be aware where they are, then they know they cannot be absent, because you always need to be within reach with them. Because in any kind of management or organization, when you don't take care of your staff, you don't look into their matters, maybe there's a personal reason why they're always absent. Maybe someone in the family is sick. You don't have empathy, you don't look into this matter. So sometimes that's why they have a reason to be absent. However, when you check in with them once in a while, find out what's going in their life, I think you will see the absenteeism will reduce very much. Again, that's my personal experience. Thank you.
Okay. Now, in the employment letter, I always say this to HR. In that employment letter, put in rules that would guard the organization. I.e., if you're absent within so number of days, the doctor's letter, it may be you're ill, the doctor's letter will cover you. It may be you're having a home issue, that is where the empathy and listening to and the challenges of emotional intelligence comes in. And then, of course, so the work-life balance. But when it becomes a nuisance, we'll have what I call a beautiful conversation. I mean, I get that. I didn't know it was going to be a question. I just whispered to Rani. I get people who tell me, excuse me, man, there's something else happened, I cannot come to work. And then you're like, okay, you listen. Now, I'm a very, very, very Nigerian woman, very cultural. I love my heritage. And where I come from, disciplining a child is so paramount. Respect is so important. Responsibility is very, very, it's part of the culture. So when they give you something and they put something in your hand as in a kind of responsibility, and you're not able to keep it because today your back is hurting, tomorrow strength is, it's probably not in what you're doing within the company. So we look at it and we say, okay, the organization has an empowerment, a CSR, and we think this fellow can do well in that. So when you have those kind of people, search within the organization, have a conversation, get HR to talk to them. I'm always the last person to come to as the MP, because when you come, I'm very quick to giving you said this morning, will you solve the problem? Take, but do me a favor. As a woman, I have gone through valleys, mountains, but of men. When I speak, your voice is small. When I talk, your voice is harsh. When I sit, I didn't sit well. When you talk, you'll be rude. So I've gone through that to come up to this position, to have you in my office, not ready to look at me as a role model, and maybe I'm not inspiring you enough to get to where you want to be, which is all I've been teaching you as a staff. Because when you come into a company, you belong to that family. It's no longer where it becomes a more of, you're interested in the welfare of the staff. You want to know how they're surviving. But when you see that that empathy has become a stupid empathy, because everything it's got is great, then you kind of readdress it and say to the fellow, I think we will give you 6 months salary so you don't suffer. To go home and look through what you can do within the 6 months. This money will buy you through the 6 months to find a more appropriate job. I always tell people, don't throw anybody into the street. Otherwise, cope with their absenteeism. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't get a clap. Why?
Right? A quick one, yeah?
All right. So when we think of transactional leadership, we might be thinking of these disciplinary actions, the policy framework of an organization where it contains the reward system and the sanctions. So because that is transactional leadership. But if we talk about transformational leadership, we're getting into the root cause of the problem. So first of all, during the employment or during the hiring process, we have to educate our future employees about the professional ethics. Professional ethics should be adopted by the employees, and absenteeism is not one of them, all right? So when we try to integrate this to our future employees, they are aware of the consequences of their actions. Number 2 is you have to walk the talk. If you're teaching this, therefore, you have to apply this as well as a leader. You should always be punctual. Early bird gets the worm, right? And the last one, I guess, is since we're talking about a family now in the organization, there's a saying that if you spare a rod, what happens to the child? Spoiled child. So I'm not sparing a rod. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rani, and to the panel of...
Then give me 10 words to make my comment. Okay, to represent the Center for Women. So I think that if the staff is a good quality staff that requests absent from duty recurring, I think the company need to change the policy, because maybe they have something, family matters, something like that. So I think the company should take care, investigate and change the policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists and moderator Ms. Rani. And for all those other questions which has been posted, which we are not able to answer now, you may please look forward to meet the panelists during the networking session. All right? Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to invite Dr. Shanti Raj to the stage to present a memento as token of appreciation to all our panelists as well as the moderator. we shall take a group picture as well. Thank you very much once again to the panelists and the moderator for sharing your valuable insights.
From the questions that you have posted, I'm so happy that you have paid attention. It's proof. Thank you again.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to announce a short tea break and networking session. And we shall see you back in another 20 minutes from now. 15 minutes from now, yes? Please be back to the hall in 15 minutes. And once again, I would like to remind the certificates will be available.